The events that took place in the Egyptian city of Zeitoun over 3 years in the mid-20th century still cause great controversy among researchers of unexplained phenomena. Several 100,000 people could have seen a luminous figure walking around the dome of the Church of St. Mary. The mysterious silhouette appeared in the same place more than 100 times. A miracle? A mirage? Or perhaps proof of the existence of the other world? Despite the fact that the phenomenon mentioned here has been carefully documented in countless photographs and film recordings, heated debates about the essence of these events are still ongoing. Therefore, let me now recall the most important facts of this mysterious phenomenon. So, on April 2, 1968, in the tiny town of Zeitoun, which is now a district of Cairo, at about 8:30 p.m., mechanics from a car repair shop on Tumanbey Street noticed a young woman in white walking on the roof of the Church of St. Mary. The temple where these events took place was built in 1925 and is used by Christians of the Coptic Rite. According to legend, the Holy Family, that is, the Virgin Mary with the baby Jesus and her husband Joseph, stayed at the site of the church during their stay in Egypt. At the warning of the workers, Father Constantine Moose from the local parish tried to persuade the woman to calmly descend to the ground. The atmosphere became more tense, the crowd of curious people grew larger by the minute, and the desperate man on the dome did not respond to the cries of the spectators. Finally, Farouk Muhammad Atwa, a Muslim who first saw the figure on the dome of the church, was surprised to notice that the roof of the temple was certainly too steep for any mortal to walk on it so easily. Voices began to slowly sound here and there, that perhaps the Virgin Mary had appeared in such a miraculous way. The luminous figure could only be seen for a few minutes that evening. Despite this, news of the unusual phenomenon spread like wildfire across the country and beyond. The next day, a crowd of people gathered near the church. In just 3 years, more than 100 manifestations of this phenomenon were recorded. It is noteworthy that the ghost always appeared after dark and was surrounded by an unusual glow. Although this entire light show took place at a height of about 12 meters, the woman moved along the steep domes of the church roof without any problems, as if the law of gravity did not work at all. Sometimes only her bust could be seen, sometimes the luminous silhouette stood or walked. She was also seen kneeling near the cross crowning the church dome. What makes these events unusual is the fact that doves sometimes appeared fluttering above the woman's head, which looked as if they were flooded with a bright light from within. These birds often formed the sign of the cross over the supposed Virgin Mary. There is a fairly large group of researchers who believe that all these events are more like UFOs. The light effects observed during this phenomenon are interpreted as a kind of holograms that supposedly affect our subconscious. But this is only one hypothesis, and not the most popular one. Interestingly, the figure appearing in Zeitoun never spoke to the crowd gathered at its feet. And yet, various messages proclaimed by the Mother of God are a typical feature of the so-called Marian revelations, that is, appearances of the Mother of God to a large number of people. Such types of revelations are officially recognized by the Church. However, the prevailing opinion of people is that we are dealing with a miracle, that is, with a phenomenon that cannot be explained by modern scientific methods. For the first 2 years, the Zeitoun phenomenon occurred on average 2 to 3 times a week. The nightly visits of the ghosts were usually preceded by unusual illuminations and huge clouds of incense. The Virgin Mary herself sometimes appeared blurred, but usually brightly, with a smile blessing the assembled. This unusual spectacle, which lasted for more than 2 hours, was photographed and filmed by hundreds of people. The events in Zeitoun were reported all over the world. Reports from witnesses of this phenomenon appeared on television and radio, and countless numbers of people gathered in front of the temple. When the revelations became widely known, about 250,000 people gathered in the area. Many Christians, Muslims, and even atheists witnessed these unusual events. The longest phenomenon, which occurred on April 30, 1968, lasted 2 hours and 15 minutes. Many cases of miraculous healings were also recorded. Farouk Atwa, whom I mentioned, went to a hospital in Cairo after what he saw, where he was to undergo an operation. The doctors were amazed, because the patient, who until recently had been suffering from an advanced stage of gangrene, was completely healthy. It is not easy to answer the question about the nature of the phenomenon in Zeitoun. It is obvious to everyone that in this case we cannot talk about a natural phenomenon, but we are witnessing an event that goes beyond our perception and understanding. Yes, we can assume that someone specially organized a grandiose light show for the public, but this required special technical means, which were simply impossible to hide from the eyes of a large number of people. There were enough skeptics in Zeitoun, who assumed that powerful spotlights and other equipment from the film industry were used here. But nothing was found. So this incredible phenomenon remains an inexplicable mystery to this day.